Hello. Let me first introduce myself. My name is Hillary Buckner. I am a Spanish teacher basically in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. I live in Upper East Tennessee in Greene County, if anybody is familiar with that. I live in an area that I like to call, I think it's normally called internet poor. So I don't have internet in my house. And when Josh Rook and I collaborated, I was at school on Friday and I kind of told him like, hey, give me a couple of minutes, couple of days, to get some stuff together. And then I'm at my coworker's house right now in order to actually be able to record this for everybody. I'm not a professional presenter by any means, but I think we've all kind of, let me move my little dot here. I think we've all kind of become amateur producers of our own in terms of getting content out for our students, especially for teachers like me who teach using comprehensible input or CI in their classrooms. So step one, okay, you know who I am, you know what I do, you know where I live. So let's go into the purpose of this video. And the purpose of this video is to give you a brief introduction to Desmos for language teachers or for other subjects, and then more specifically explain what Josh and I have collaborated on, which is a resource for Locura de Marzo to coincide with Senior Ashby's great resource that comes out every year. So first things first, if you don't have a Desmos yet, in order to use this resource, you are going to have to create an account. And in case you are confused about the difference between this particular site and the Desmos calculator, these two things are completely different, right? My coworkers, for example, when I said, hey, I'm using Desmos, they're like, we know this to be a calculator. Not only calculator, but the activity builder, of course, is a completely different function. So the website that you see is kind of right above my little head here. It's teacher.desmos.com. And if you don't have an account, like I said, you'll need to create an account, but I do have one. So I'm just going to sign in here. I think I can just sign in with Google. Yeah. Okay. Which is beautiful. It interfaces with Google really nicely so that you don't really have to remember passwords. You can just make a little click there and you're in. Okay. Next, once you're in, I will be posting links in this video, so you will be able to go directly to this resource and copy it. And I will try to remember how to show you how to do that without this being like incredibly long. And if this is long, I apologize in advance because it might be a little complex. Let's talk first about the difference between activities and collections, because I think a lot of people are confused about how those things work as well. And I'll just give you, I'm not an expert by any means, but I'll give you a breakdown of how I've been using them this particular semester. So to create an activity, you'll first go to custom, right? And you notice that I have a nice long list of activities here that I have created, as well as activities that I have copied from other people, most notably Margaret Fox, who I studied this quiz in order to figure out the beautiful computation layer that I'm going to show you in the Locura de Marzo activity. Right, so to create an activity, you would simply hit new activity, and you can do that, or you can just copy an activity directly from the link that I'm going to post to you. I think it'll work that way. Again, thing you need to know, I'm not an expert. I am a neophyte like the rest of you. I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go along, right? So that's generally how to create an activity. Once you have actually done activities and use them with your classes, you can go into your activity history. So you see that I have mine divided by periods and levels, and go in and check their data. But I think there's other videos that explain that. And then collections, I have just organized my collections by week. All right, that's easiest for me. So when I go in and grade it, I think, am I doing week 1? Am I doing week 2? So just to show you what that looks like, you're just sending them to these collections. All right, that's the best way that I have come up with to use the collections so far. All right, so this activity will probably be in week 8 maybe, and it's really nice how Desmos does this. Like, it color codes it for you so that you can visually separate your weeks and it doesn't all kind of mesh together. All right, so back to the meat of this particular video. So I'm going to go back into custom and I'm going to show you what I worked with or worked on and where to find these little bits and pieces in this particular resource. So the good thing about round 1 is that we already know what the matchups are. And I will be creating more for round 2 and round 3 and so on and so forth. So we will figure out a way between Josh and I and the other collaborators, we will figure out a way to get these resources out to you as soon as they're available. Alrighty, so we're gonna click into this little guy, and to make a copy, you will just go into copy and edit. But since I've already, this is mine, okay, I'm gonna go into edit my activity and I will show you what's already there. Okay, so first screen simply has a graphic to introduce the kids to what we're doing, to introduce some students to what we're doing. I believe Senior Ashby has its own graphics, but in Canva I created a little Locura de Marzo 2021 deal here. And then off to the right, and you can reposition these if you want to, off to the right I typed in a note. Okay, I created a note and linked it to Senior Ashby's main page, the Locura de Marzo page. So the way that works, if you preview it here, the kids will come in and they'll see this, and then they'll have that link which opens in a completely new window, which will take them to all the resources. Okay, now how I built that, let me show you. Okay, so to add a screen, you'll do that. Okay, and let's just move this to the end here. All right, so to build a screen like that, you simply would hit a media button and you're gonna choose a file to upload. And I created, as I said, all of these in Canva and downloaded them to my computer. So choose a file here to upload. Here's all my other buttons. All right, there you go. You've got your image there now. And if you want to be able to make it bigger for your students, you click on these 3 little dots to the right, and you can show the border, allow full screen, and then that allows them, like, make it bigger on their little Chromebook or whatever it is the school's given them, which is usually a teeny weeny little screen. Okay, next thing is the note. Okay, so how I linked it is, usually I just put them in this, like, click here to be taken to the site. Let's just put in some sample text here. And the cool thing is the links are really easy. I've seen a few people say, like, oh, the links there are great, okay? They are really easy. So you'll just highlight the text that you want to link to, click link, and I'd go here to the site that I want to link, Control C, and then Control V, and then save, and there you go, right? Took like 2 seconds to make. So if you preview it, look, it looks exactly the same. Yay, okay? But I don't want that anymore. So to delete a screen, guess what you do? You hit the X, and then you delete screen, and then it disappears, and you're good to go. Okay, all right, so that's screen 1. Screen 2, so the way we've imagined it is that each matchup will have its own screen here. And I really love write and discuss, and I really love asking probing questions of my students. So if anything you see here doesn't match up with what you do, chuck it, get rid of it, right? Or get outside of your comfort zone and try it, right? Because it might actually open up some beautiful discussions with you and your students. Alrighty, so first matchup, as we know on the bracket, is Vida de Rico by Camilo and Aloha by Bomba Estéreo of Soy Yo fame with Carlos Sadness. And I haven't looked up Carlos Sadness much, but I just really like the name, so I'm curious to see what Carlos Sadness is all about in terms of his artistic sense. So first thing I have here is just the Locura de Marzo bracket, and I downloaded this from a Jamboard file that Josh Rook created based on some of the other shared resources on Senior Ashby's page. And then I created a little note, and the note has step 1 listen to the 2 songs, and just like I showed you, I linked the YouTube video for Vida de Rico here and the YouTube video for Aloha. Right? I, of course, will display it for my kids that are in person because I'm doing a hybrid synchronous / asynchronous. We cannot mandate our students out here to be synchronous because of the internet issues. So I have to really like retool everything for those kids who might be in class with me, following along with Zoom, or doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So here's the links for those kids who like to work after they've woken up. So here you go. They'll listen to it. Right? And then step 2 tells them to choose the song that they like the most. So what I did here is I put a multiple choice question, and it's just got 2 screenshots from the videos, just cute ones that I really liked. And then I labeled them Vida de Rico or Aloha. Underneath here, paso 3, they then have to choose the adjective or the adjectives that best describe the song. So then I went into Canva and made a bunch of little buttons here, right? That describe the song. And these are uploaded as a list. And if you upload as a list and not as a multiple choice question, then they can choose more than one option, okay? Which is really neat. And then underneath here, we have more instructions. Okay, paso 4 tells them to write a description of why they like the song more than the one they chose, okay, more than the other song, which is going to prepare them for the write and discuss coming up later on in this activity. And then this is beautiful. I kind of adapted the way I give helps and scaffolding to my students based on the things that I've seen shared in this group already. So I really love the whole concept that Tina Hargaden put out of differentiating between nivel principiante and then the nivel intermedio and avanzado. And I teach Spanish 1 and 3 in the fall and 2 and 4 in the spring. So it's really nice because I can use the same resource with both classes and just say, hey, you know, choose a level that you feel the most comfortable with. If you're in my upper level classes, I think you know what I expect of you. Okay. Alrighty, so they can write 1 sentence if they're nivel principiante, more than 1 with other additional information there. And then underneath here, we've got a text box. And you notice something interesting, right? Some of these are unlabeled, some of these are labeled, right? And this is where the beautiful computation layer in Desmos comes into play, right? So this one's labeled matchup 1 text, and then up here you notice that this one is labeled matchup 1 round 1. I'm not going to worry about that for now, okay? But here's what it looks like. So keep this in your mind though for later. Keep it in your brain. So let's preview this particular slide here. All right, ooh, yay. So they get to see the bracket. They can be like, oh, I think this is gonna win. Okay, this is seed 1 versus seed 16. So it's obvious what's gonna happen. I'm flicking my microphone. That probably made super bad noise. All right. So they get to see that. They get to study it. Here is what the instructions look like, right? Nice and cleaned up. Underneath, they're gonna choose. I personally really like Aloha, right? I'm just gonna pretend this is me, right? Aloha. And you notice that as soon as they make a selection, it's gonna give you a little dot, which shows you that the students have interacted with the slide. Right now here, I think Aloha is positiva. I think it is bailable over everything else, right? And then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to write my description. Okay, Aloha es una canción muy buena porque es positiva. Something of that nature, right? Okay, and then I'm going to hit submit. Don't forget, later on this is going to be important, okay? All right, so we did that. Now, let's go to this one. I am probably going to have to do a separate video to kind of explain what's going to go on here, right? So the next little slide is going to be the voting slide, but it's not the voting where, well, I guess it is. It's gonna serve several purposes, right? We need to be able to keep these kids honest in a way and track their progress outside of doing prior research and checking on how the national vote is going on Senior Ashby's site. At least that's the thought process behind this particular screen. Some teachers might be super strict about it. Others might just be like, I'm really happy that they're interacting with me today and not worry about it. But I set this up as a competition. And I know some teachers have done class competitions. I do individual competitions, just like you would in a regular March Madness bracket, with possibly 2 to 3 winners with highly personalized prizes at the very end. Okay, so a way for me to keep them honest is to have them upload a vote each day for me that they cannot manipulate afterwards. Okay, and to do that, this is where we're going to interface with the Google app Jamboard. All right, so in Jamboard, I have a file for each class, kind of like a master slide, if you will, that's set up with the bracket, right? And I've been messing with this one, so I'm gonna clear this frame. Or no, I'll show you. Yeah, let's delete that. Okay. Alrighty, so what I do for my classes is, and this is maybe where I was in elementary school, but I just find it easier. I go ahead and name each slide for them. Like, this would be Bill Ayers, or the next one would be Jennifer Brown. Okay, right? I do it in alphabetical order, so they just go through and they find their slide. And then after they've listened to Vida de Rico or Aloha, and they've already made their selection, they're going to tell me again what their selection is. And they're going to do that by clicking on a text box, placing it right there. And let's see, we do Aloha. Okay, and you can resize it, reposition it to make it look beautiful for your little OCD kids. I've got a bunch. Okay, and then I've got some who don't care, who will like literally draw a line. I'm like, I want you to write, right? Like they'll just draw a line, or they'll squiggle all over the place, or they'll like, hola, Senor Buckner, or they'll draw me cats, or like Bingus is really popular. If you don't know who the hairless cat Bingus is, like my kids really love Bingus, right? So there we go. All right, so Aloha's in there. What you'll do now. Now, mind you, this will be used every single time you do a matchup, okay? And probably a good thing, too, to teach your kids about digital citizenship, because they can go in and write on other people's screens. My school, my kids are like, they're nice. They're great. Like, they don't mess with other people's things. I think they're afraid of me because I have, like, a crud load of energy, and they don't want to see what happens if that energy is misdirected from like the positive side of things to the negative side of things, because my mom voice is strong. I've been known to make a kid cry on accident, not on purpose, just on accident. Okay, fussing at them. They don't want to see that. So usually they don't go and mess with stuff for me. So they'll do that, blah blah blah. Okay, then they'll go up here to these 3 little dots, and they'll hit save frame as image. And once you do that, I'll show you what happens. Okay, save frame as image. It's going to pop it down into your downloads. So then we'll go back into Desmos. And trust me, this isn't like really complicated for the kids once they get used to it, because I do my dictatos this way now. Like that. One session, they get what they're going to do. Okay. You will have each of the Jamboards linked per class. I teach all 4 periods. I have no planning. I think the good Lord is trying to kill me this year, but oh well. So you'll link all your classes. They'll go into their little thing. You've got it downloaded, and I'll show you what the screen looks like. It just looks like this with their instructions for what to do on the next slide, with a repeated link from the first screen, which will allow them to go back to actually vote in the national competition. But I always try to encourage this to happen after they do the vote for me. I want it to be authentic. I want them to really tell me which one they like and why, right? And if they end up winning and get lucky, yay, okay? It's not about winning. It's about really appreciating the music, right? So next screen is going to look like this, okay? This is simply a graphing calculator screen, and it has to live by itself. You cannot, and I'll click this way, put it on another screen. It has to be a subsequent screen in order for it to work. So what they'll do is they will click on this, let me move myself, okay? I'm gonna move myself over here. They'll click on this plus sign, and they'll go down here to image, and then they will click on their vote for the day, and they'll open it up, and it will upload it here, and you see it's really teeny weeny. So all I have to do is hit zoom in and snag it, zoom in again, well, zoom out maybe, snag it, and position it to where when I go to look at it, if I need to look at it, which for me this is really just verification, and you'll see why, just if I need it, if I need to check on the integrity and the honesty of the kids bracket. That's it. Okay, so there you are. All right, it's uploaded, so let's show you what this looks like. Preview it, boom. Okay, it's right there. When I go in and look at the kids' work, it's going to be there for you. So I don't want this to be in my master, so I will take it out, which means I'm just going to exit out of there, and it disappears. Okay, so now it's blank. Next slide. Write and discuss. I put teacher tips in here for you guys, okay? And here's how I envision using it. So in each of my classes, I have little bitty cards, and I lay them out in front of me. And in my brain, I know which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and so on and so forth. I usually have one person in my classroom who's my chooser, and they don't know what their number is either. So I'd be like, hey, Rebecca, dame un número. Like, give me a number. And she'll be like, oh, señor Buckner, cinco. I'm like, okay, cinco as Xavier. Okay. And I'd be like, okay, Xavier, ¿cuál es la canción que tú elegiste? Which one did you choose? Right? And then Xavier would tell me, and then like, okay, why not? Like, and I may just ask a few probing questions depending on the kid too. Like, I have gotten to know my students pretty well, right? So I might ask a few questions like, is this something that you would listen to with your mom? Is this something you would listen to with your girlfriend if you didn't have a girlfriend? Da, 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 da. Okay, and then leave that alone for a minute. Usually at this point, I have trained my students, and I'll show you what my notebook looks like. Okay, I have trained my students to think, I tell them journalistically, right? So I will have a notebook, and this is just a pitch for Erin Condren. I love ghosts and stuff. I don't know if you can see this. This is a cute little ghosty notebook with my name on it, Senora Buckner. It's adorbs. But I have my little ghosty notebook here, and I'll have it organized by day. So you can see, it's got like my, let's see, it's my super messy handwriting on here. So I'll put like jueves, this was jueves, el 4 de febrero. And as kids give me their information, I will be taking notes, and I usually encourage my students to have either their own notebook or a document open on the computer that they're taking notes on, so that when we get to the call and response aspect of the write and discuss, they're not sitting there like zombies without an answer. Okay. All right. So first student has given me their info. Then I'll be like, okay, Rebecca, dame otro número. Give me another number. And she'll be like, okay, Senora Buckner, dos. Okay. So I'll pick up dos. Oh, dos as Bobby. All right, Bobby. You're going to now tell me whether or not you agree with Xavier's choice and why, right? So again, a little bit of probing questions, and then we will do, I like to call them like a mini write and discuss. Well, we will just type up what we talked about, right? So the preview, this will look like this, right? So like, okay, I might say, Xavier prefiere, maybe my little face again, prefiere la canción Aloha porque es una canción energética, okay? Let me say it like, Bobby está de acuerdo con Xavier porque a él le gusta la canción también. Something like that. Like something really simple. We'll type it out together. I'll ask it out together depending on the details. I don't want this to be more than a few minutes long. And then usually what I'll do, especially like this would be like that right there would be like with the Spanish 2 class. Usually I walk up and I'm like, okay, I'll count tres, dos, uno, and then we'll translate it out together just to make sure that my lower level kids understand what's going on, and then we'll move on from there. All right, so here's the magic. The magic is in this little slot. So you remember, I hope this works. Cross your fingers, okay? I hope this works. And it did not. Shooty McShoot. All right. I mean, it's going to work. It's just, I've been clicking in and out of things, right? I didn't do this all in a preview, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to show you what I wanted it to look like. So I've got this programmed to where it is linked up to the selections that the children make from the screenshots to go into the preferencia column here and their justification in the next column. If they don't put anything there, I've got it coded to say no hay una respuesta. But you could put anything there, whatever you want, right? If you want to get into the computation layer and play around with it, but that's for another day. I did that in like my fever dream of post-vaccination, for lack of a better word, hell, yesterday, right? Because I had my second shot yesterday and it is not fun. But this is what I did. Use my time, figure out computation layer and how to make all of this like aggregate at the end. All right, so let's go back. Since we're in the student preview, let's pretend like we just listened to, wait, here we go. We just listened to Aloha. We like Aloha, and we like Aloha because it is positiva and bailable, right? Okay, energetica, whatever. So you're gonna write me gusta Aloha. I'll pretend like I'm the kid who is only gonna write me gusta Aloha, who's gonna make me challenge him or her by saying, excuse me, why did you not give me justification like I asked you? So I'm that kid. And then I'm gonna hit submit. There we go. And now the magic. There you go. You have it collated to the end. You're gonna know their preference. You'll have their name up here, right? And then you'll know their preference and you know why. And I'm gonna use this to, like on a piece of graph paper or something, keep up with their points. But again, the way Josh and I have envisioned this is that at the very end of things, like at the end of round 1, I'm going to open this up because their answers will be locked in at that point. I'm going to paste them to this slide so they can't go back to anything else, right? And I'll show you that too in a moment. I'm going to paste them to this slide and I'm like, all right, great opportunity for more input, right? We'll go back through the 8 matchups and be like, all right, which one won? Is this right? Maybe, okay, your preference was this, or I might call up a student like, such and such chose Aloha. Aloha ganó or no, okay, or Aloha perdió, or you just give them some past tense practice, win-lose practice, whatever. And then I'll have them do the total number of songs that they got correct, and then the total number of points that they got at the end of round 1, which makes it super easy for me if I wanted to just do this at the very end and not do it all the way throughout. But I am a hyper micromanager of my kids in a way, and I like to do this throughout. Okay, I'm an overworker, right? I'm a super overworker. All right, so I think the last thing I need to show you is how I envision the pacing, right? So let's see. Okay, to show you the pacing, I'm gonna publish this again to remember how to do this little guy. Okay, I'm gonna have to like fake assign it. So you can assign to your classes, which I won't because mine will be like, Ms. Blair, what is this here? Or a single session code. So let's pretend like I'm doing a single session code for this. And this will be a running link for the kids, and I'll explain that in just a moment too, okay? How I do it. So let's view the dashboard. So we're gonna go into the dashboard. Oh, hey students, join. All right, there you go. And here's my teacher dashboard. So throughout the first round, I am going to pace them. Like, let's say this is day 1. I don't want them to think about anything but Aloha versus Vida de Rico for a day or two. So I'm going to lock them into that particular set of parameters. And then at the very, very end, this is when I'm going to stop pacing. So I'll stop it. And then I'm going to paste them just to screen 6, right? So once all the voting and everything has been tabulated and we've talked out all the introductions to the songs, then they will not be able to go back and do any kind of manipulation whatsoever. So I think it'll work. This is new to me. This is new to everybody. Last thing I want to mention for you, let's go to the activity page. How do I see my students following along? Okay, I shouldn't have gotten out of that, I don't think. Okay, there we are. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Okay, since I didn't assign it, it's not going to give me a link, but normally you have a link to share it with students. So I use Canvas. I'm not sure, of course, because if I was sure, then I'd be psychic and rich, okay? And I'm not psychic and rich. So let's, I don't know what LMS that you guys are using. So here's my LMS. We use Canvas. So the way I am going to do this is once Locura de Marzo starts, like a sample assignment. Let's just show you. I post everything here in this quiz. Let's go to my module. Go to module 6, not module 7. Okay. All right. I'll show you what one of my last lessons looks like. Okay. Let's do the one from 212, which was last Friday. Okay. So my Desmos lessons they're really fluid. They kind of go all squashed up with one another. So my kids on Friday had to go back to their last Thursday lesson so that we could finish it, but I just have a link to their period. And so with Locura de Marzo, what I'm going to do is just relink it in all of their assignments so that they don't have to go hunting for it and it doesn't get pushed down in the list, because it will get pushed down on the list. It will get pushed down on the list of the assignments on Desmos, but to keep that from becoming a time waster where kids are like, I don't know where to go, I link it for them. So like their first task of the day will be to click on your class period to open today's Locura de Marzo listening and voting, right? And then I'll have another section that'll say this, right? Click on your class period to open up today's Desmos lesson. So I am not going to mesh the Locura de Marzo activity with whatever content we're working on that day. On that note, on that final note, what I showed you, I don't anticipate taking more than about 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of the class, at least for round 1. Josh and I kind of agree that we want to keep this a very shallow dive, so to speak, into the round 1 matchups and maybe go deeper into, like I really like doing artist information, and go deeper into the artists and deeper into maybe lyric study, depending on the strengths and weaknesses of your students in the subsequent rounds. But I'm going to be making stuff for that too, based on the free resources that are in the Google Drive. All right. So I think that's everything. I think that's everything I wanted to mention. And the last thing that I will give you is just, I'll encourage you to tell me, okay? Tell me if there are things, because there's so much going on here, if there are things that you want to know that I did not cover in this explanation, comment on the video, comment in Facebook, wherever this ends up, because I'm not exactly sure where it's going to end up. Comment on the video and I will create follow-up videos that will kind of help me kind of plan content, so to speak, for you all. Yeah, so it's great. You can hear me ramble. Okay, I just like to ramble. That's my thing. All right, so it's very nice to meet you. It's a one-sided introduction, but I think you can kind of tell that there's a part of me that's like uber brainy and uber nerdy, but then also like kind of energetic and out there in my own right. Okay, which works really well in a foreign language classroom because we're oftentimes trying to get kids to enjoy something that they come into with a preconceived notion about a lot of my kids are closed doors, and I'm sure there are people of you who work in a scenario that's pretty similar to mine. And if you don't, then you are one lucky duck. All right, so signing off for now. As I said, let me know what you need, and it was nice to meet you. Adios.